All right, today and this week you are going to be working with quadratics in standard form. Quadratic functions in standard form. And the standard form of a quadratic function is f of x or y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And what that means is that whatever's in front of the x squared is the a value. Whatever's in front of the x is the b value. And whatever's out here by itself, this constant, is your c value. All right, so those are your a, your b, and your c values. And this a, this leading coefficient, it has the same properties as the a did in vertex form. All right, so this graph is a parabola. A greater than 0 opens up with minimum value. A less than 0, which is negative, right, opens down with a maximum value. Now, your domains are still going to be all real numbers, and then your range will be based on the y value at the vertex. So we could say domain, all real numbers, and the range is, it's based on whether a is positive or negative. So we'll say it's based on a positive or negative a, and the y value at the vertex. It's based on a positive or negative a, right? Because if the a is positive, the graph goes up. Agreed? Agreed? Remember last week, and this is something you don't have to write down. If the graph goes up, didn't it have a minimum value? And all of the y's had to be greater than or equal to this y value, right? Y value at the vertex. If the graph went down, which means that a is negative, it had a maximum value, and all of your y values, your ranges, or y is less than or equal to whatever the y value was at the vertex. You remember that? Okay. So it's a little bit open-ended, but as you look at the function, you can determine whether it's got a minimum or maximum value, and then your range is going to be based on what the y value is at the vertex. So in order to find the vertex, So actually, let's do this first. The axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry, which is the vertical line through the middle of the graph that goes through the vertex, is an x equals formula. So our axis of symmetry is going to be equal to the opposite of b divided by 2 times a. All right? And then the next thing you'll have to do is list the vertex. The vertex of these graphs, the x value at the vertex will be the opposite of b over 2a. And the y value at the vertex will come from substituting x into the equation. And that'll make some more sense here in just a second. All right, so what we're going to do today and what you're going to do in your practice problems, here's what the directions are going to look like. Find or identify the vertex, axis of symmetry, min or max value, and range. All right, so you got to find vertex, axis of symmetry, minimum or maximum value, and the range. So here's how this works. You've got a function y is equal to 2x squared plus 6 plus, what was that, 6 there on it? It's an 8 plus 8x minus 2. The first thing that you do is you list your a, which is 2, your b, which is 8, and your c values. Now, our x at the vertex is our axis of symmetry. Our x at the vertex, we can say, is equal to the opposite of b, or the opposite negative sign, and then just put b over 2 times whatever a is. And then simplify. All right, so this would be the opposite of 8 over 4, or negative 8 over 4. And what's 8 over 4 equal to? 8 over 4. 8 over 4 is 2, so our x at the vertex would be negative 2. So if we're trying to list the vertex, or, well, we'll say vertex first. Our vertex has an x value of negative 2. To find the y value at the vertex, you go back to the original equation and you substitute x at the vertex. So our y at the vertex is equal to 2 times negative 2 squared plus 8 times negative 2 minus 2. Now, if you got a TI-30 XA calculator, you can type this in left to right and push equals. If you don't, well, negative 2 squared is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8, plus 8 times negative 2 is negative 16, minus 2. 8 plus negative 16 would be negative 8, minus 2 would be negative 10. So we found x at the vertex by evaluating the opposite of b divided by 2a, which was the negative 2. We substituted the negative 2 back into the original equation to find our y at the vertex, which was negative 10. So our vertex is at negative 2, negative 10. Our axis of symmetry is x equals whatever the x value is at the vertex. So negative 2. So we've got vertex, we have axis of symmetry. Now, does this graph open up or down? Opens up because the A is positive. If the graph opens up, then it has a minimum value. So minimum or maximum value, well, it's got a minimum. And its minimum value is the y at the vertex. So its minimum value is negative 10. Its range, okay? Since the graph opens up, then its range is going to be y is greater than or equal to whatever the y value is at the vertex. So y is greater than or equal to negative 10. Anybody have any questions on how to find those 4 different things related to a function in standard form? A little bit louder. Okay, the vertex, this negative 2 came from right here. X at the vertex is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. This is your a, this is your b, okay? And that's why I think it's always best to just identify those values first when you do the problem. Find your a, your b, and your c. All right, so let's do one more of these. We're going to find those same 4 things, but now our equation is y is equal to negative 3x squared minus 4x plus 6. All right, so what's our a? What's the b? We don't really need c, but it's 6. So we're going to find x at the vertex. So we're going to say x at the vertex is equal to the opposite of b, which is negative 4, over 2 times a. All right, so in this case, you got to be careful because we're starting off with a negative over a negative, which equals a positive, right? And the opposite of a positive goes back to a negative. So all of this becomes negative 2/3. That is our x at the vertex. So vertex, the x value, negative 2/3. Now our y value is going to come from substituting negative 2/3 back into this original equation. All right. So y at the vertex is equal to negative 3 times negative 2/3 squared minus 4 times negative 2/3 plus 6. So in the calculator, you can just work left to right. So it would be 3 negative times 2/3 negative x squared minus 4 times 2/3 negative plus 6 and then hit equals. And we're going to get 7.33 or 7 1/3. So our vertex is at negative 2/3 and 7 1/3. Our axis of symmetry is x equals whatever x is at the vertex, so negative 2/3. Now, this a value is negative, so this graph is going to open down. So it's going to have a maximum value, all right, and our max value is whatever y is at the vertex, so our max value is 7 1/3. And then our range, since the graph goes down, our range is going to be y is less than or equal to 7 1/3. There won't be any y values in this graph higher than 7 1/3. That make any sense? Anybody have any questions? All right, then your practice for today is going to be on page 206. Problems 8 through 12. And you've got 10 ALEKS topics this week. Go ahead.